Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Perfectly Imperfect podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Minnie, and I'm so excited to be recording this episode today. I feel like we haven't chatted in a while. I've been having a few guest episodes, which have been filling my cup so much, and I hope you all have been enjoying them. I have been asking friends or creators, people we've been following each other for a while, just other people who I feel like have inspired me in some way, impacted me in my life. It is so special to be able to share their voice to all of you listening. So I would love to hear some feedback. If you have listened to those episodes, you resonated with one of the guests, feel free to write in a comment on Spotify, which I actually love that little comment feature on Spotify. I don't personally listen to all of my podcasts on Spotify, but I love the little comment feature there. So if you do listen on Spotify, drop a little comment, say hi. I love seeing your thoughts and hearing your feedback. Or you can also DM me at jenny.minnie on Instagram or perfectlyimperfect.pod on Instagram. Feel free to follow along. All that to say, I'm just excited to be recording a solo episode today. I feel like I haven't sat down and chatted with you all in a minute. I also got these new fun microphones. I love that they're wireless, so I feel like I could walk around, but obviously I won't. I'm really comfortable here on my sofa. Anyway, if you're not watching this episode, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but I have this fun microphone thing with a foam top, so it feels more like I'm a singer. I don't know where that came out of me. Somehow I have a lot of energy right now. But probably because I'm just excited to be here, and I feel like I haven't yapped on the microphone in so long. So thank you all for being here. I want to also give a little bit life update. This week was honestly kind of low, kind of not the best, which is really sad because it's now March 14th when I'm recording this, and the first couple weeks of March have been, well, I guess the first week, because it's only been 2 weeks of March, but the first week of March was so good. I felt so energized. I felt so fulfilled. I was meeting a lot of people, seeing a lot of people. I went to a International Women's Day event and then a walk, and I met some new people, and I just was kind of go, but in the most energizing and refilling way, and meeting a lot of new people. And then maybe that is just a sign that my social battery drained, because this past week I was just so low, and Monday started off with having an anxiety attack at the gym, which is really cool. Hasn't happened to me in years, and I'm so proud to say that hasn't happened to me in years, because I used to have anxiety attacks at the gym all the time, just because I was at the gym for the wrong reasons and not viewing my relationship with movement in a healthy way. So I'm really proud to say that I haven't had an anxiety attack at the gym in a very long time, but I did this week, and it really took me aback, and I was really shocked why. And obviously I left. I didn't finish my workout. I stayed there for probably 15 minutes, and I just kind of thought that moving my body mindfully would help the anxiety go away. I kind of felt it bubbling up. Anyone with anxiety will probably know what I'm talking about. I went to the gym. I felt kind of anxious, as I do most mornings, honestly. But I was like, okay, maybe it'll go away. But as I kept staying at the gym, I just kept getting more in my head. The thoughts just were racing faster and faster and faster. And then next thing I know, I'm nauseous and I'm about to cry. And so I literally just drop the weight, run to the changing room, grab my bag, sprint walk home, and I cried in the shower when I got back home. So that was the start to my week this week, which was not a very good start. And I'm still kind of trying to figure out why, but I do think it's because I was so go, and I wasn't ignoring my needs, but I definitely had a lot of social plans, which kind of sometimes pushes your personal needs aside, but not in a bad way. Just you're busy and you're outside and you're talking and you're meeting people. And I think I get very caught up in that sometimes and kind of forget to ask myself how I'm actually doing and how I'm feeling. And so then on Monday, my body was like, we need to just rest. We need to just let out the emotions that you haven't been feeling all weekend. So it was definitely a necessary release, although it definitely wasn't comfortable to experience in the moment. Anyone who has experienced anxiety or panic attacks, they are not fun at all, but it was kind of a little bit of a wake-up call. Hey, you need to take care of yourself. Even when you have busy days and busy weekends and you're socializing, you can't really ignore what you need. So that was an unfortunate start to the week, but I feel like it really just, like I said, it was a bit of a wake-up call. It was a bit of a mindful reflection moment for myself. And I have definitely been taking it easy the rest of the week. And that is also a moment of growth. I feel like in the past, when I would feel overwhelmed or feel stressed out, I wouldn't really take that as a sign to then slow down. If anything, I would just like ramp up my workouts or ramp up my workload or ramp up my productivity because I thought that I was falling behind, quote unquote. But really that was just increasing the issue and not helping me at all. So now I know that when I have moments like that, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when my body and my brain are clearly communicating to me that I need to slow down, that I need to rest, and I need to take care of myself, then I do. So this week I didn't do any strength training workouts at the gym after Monday because I was like, I just need to take a break, take a step away from that for a minute. But I also know that moving my body does help my anxiety. I think I just needed to kind of reframe the ways I was moving my body. Recently, I've been on my strength training grind and really, really enjoying it. I mean, I use grind very loosely. I'm not like grinding strength training. I'm just mindfully strength training, but I feel like I go through phases of having a bit of more of an emphasis on one style of movement at a time. Like I went through a bar class period, I went through a Pilates and like reformer solid core period, and then yoga and then running, which didn't last very long. I don't like to run. But then now I'm in my strength training period. And so, like I said, when I use grind, it's very loose. Sometimes that means 1 time a week. Sometimes that means 3 times a week. It really depends on the week. But this week, I feel like I kind of, like I said, took a step back a bit and leaned a bit more into classes because I was finding it to be a bit overwhelming to guide myself through moving my body. Yeah, so those have been bringing me joy this week. But equally, sometimes classes don't even help if I'm feeling overwhelmed and anxious or not so good in my body, and then I just don't do anything at all. Maybe just walks or stretches at home or something like that. Learning to be intuitive with how I move my body and kind of allowing myself to flow with the ups and downs of life and anxiety and other things like that has definitely been a journey, and it's not something I kind of have figured out overnight for sure. It's taken years to tune into myself and really listen to myself, and sometimes I still struggle, and I'm just learning that that's okay. That's okay to struggle. It's okay to not know exactly how to help yourself in every single moment, and it's okay to feel a little bit uncomfortable or maybe like you quote unquote did something wrong, but those are all completely normal parts of life, and that's something I'm really leaning into and learning to accept more, because I feel like with my perfectionism, I have always kind of freaked out and made a big deal in my own head or out loud when something went quote unquote wrong, or when it didn't go to plan, when I felt discomfort, when it felt like I had made a mistake. I have always just been so hard on myself and made it my sole goal to never make that mistake ever again. And that is clearly a black and white mindset. It's telling myself there is a right, there is a wrong, and you cannot be in between. You always need to be right. You never can be wrong. And that is just setting such an unrealistic expectation for life, because what might be right this month will not be right next month. And what even is right? Like I said, it changes so much. We are not robots. We're not acting and needing the exact same thing every single day. So what is quote unquote right for us is gonna change. And I feel like as someone with perfectionism, I've struggled so much with that. And so anyone out there struggling with similar things, you are certainly not alone. If you struggle with black and white mindsets, if you struggle with perfectionism, if you struggle to feel like okay when you do something quote unquote wrong or make a mistake, you are not alone. Don't beat yourself up. But I feel like something that's been really helping me is just really pushing back against that black and white mindset, pushing back against that perfectionism, and not allowing myself to take that as truth. I have taken it as my truth for so much of my life, honestly, just up until probably the last couple years. I have taken the extremes. I've taken that black and white mindset as my truth and my guide to living my life for as long as I can remember, honestly. And so now that I'm questioning it and challenging it and pushing back against it, it's leaving me with a lot more questions and a lot more discomfort, which makes sense because I'm pushing myself into the gray area. I'm pushing myself into not defining what's right and wrong and just letting myself live and see what happens, which to someone with anxiety and perfectionism is the most scary thing because I'm pushing myself into this area of unknown and I can't plan for it. I can't know the outcome. I can't know what to expect. And those are three things that I feel like I've built such a strong foundation around knowing, and I've built my confidence around being able to know those things ahead of time. So I want to continue talking about this and talking about things I'm learning and talking about how I'm discovering more about myself as someone who struggled with an eating disorder, anxiety, depression, perfectionism, black and white mindsets. I know I'm not alone, but it definitely can be a very isolating feeling at times. It can definitely be a very isolating journey and an isolating place to be in when you're on a healing, a self-growth, self-discovery journey because so much is changing and so much is unknown, and it kind of feels like everyone around me has already either been on their journey and they've gotten to the end of it, they know who they are, they have confidence, they have healed, but that is just the kind of, I guess that is the black and white mindset thinking that they're either not healed or they're healed. More often than not, everyone is in that gray area. Everyone is on their own journey, and it's not something to shame or hide from or feel isolated in. And I don't know. I think that's why I found so much power in talking about it and sharing it with you all, and just I know that talking through it helps me, and I hope it helps you as well feel less alone, and knowing that people don't have it figured out and people struggle and people don't know how to get to where they want to be, and that's okay. And that is completely normal, and that is a part of life. And I heard in another podcast recently, I don't remember which one, but the person on the podcast says, oh, I think it was literally Michelle Obama, actually. Embarrassing that I forgot it was her. Icon, she has a podcast with her brother that I have been listening to, which is so cute. And she said something along the lines of, life is a continuous learning process, a beautiful learning process that never ever ends. And that is so true. I feel like in my brain, and especially since graduating college, I've always thought, okay, when am I going to get it? When am I going to get there? When am I going to understand? When am I going to heal? When am I going to recover? When am I going to just become the person that I want to be? And the more I'm looking inward, going to therapy, just questioning myself and trying to discover myself authentically, I am understanding that who I want to be is already in me. And that is something I want to talk about today, in today's episode. I feel like I've had a very long-winded intro, but today I wanted to talk about the idea that you are already the person you want to become. And I know that may sound so intensely like self-development, like better yourself, like be the person you're meant to be, like you already are that which you want to become. Like, I don't know, but it really is true. Like, it really is true. And I feel like I have been so averse to all these self-development and bettering yourself and like whatever glow up culture and all of that, which I do think there is a toxic side to that. There is a very toxic side to that. And I definitely notice in myself when I've consumed too much of it, it then just starts becoming a way that I self-criticize, and I'm like, oh good, all these people are telling me I need to do this and this and this and wake up at this time and work out this many times and eat this and look like that and buy clothes here. Like, I think that is getting too much. But I think if you just strip it down to the basics, to the core, and just honestly, for me, simplifying my self-growth journey and my self-development journey and just simplifying it to the foundation has been helping me so much. There's going to be all this kind of fluff on top of that people will try to sell you and try to talk about and try to convince you of. And I don't think all of those things are bad at all, but I just know in myself, when I start focusing on all the fluff and all the extra things on top, that's when I get overwhelmed. And that's when I feel like I don't want to take any more steps forward. It's too hard. It's too much. Because it is just too hard and too much. Just consuming so many ways that different people have improved their life. It is just too much for a brain and our brains to fathom. But this one idea that I'm talking about today, the idea that you are already who you want to become, or I guess in other ways you could say the person you want to become is already within you, is something that my therapist actually said to me a few days ago this week. And I have not stopped thinking about it since. I feel like every day it has come up and it has just brought me so much peace. In a week, this last week, where I feel like my anxiety was pretty high and I was just kind of feeling iffy and low a lot of the days, this concept and this idea just grounded me so much. And so I was like, I need to talk about this. I need to talk through this. And I feel like when I thought about talking about it, I was like, well, I don't really have all the answers. I don't really know exactly what this means. I don't really know exactly how to approach it. But then I was like, let me just honor the name of this podcast and show up perfectly imperfect. I am showing up imperfectly here because I don't quite understand it myself, but I wanted to share how it's been making me feel and how I'm kind of thinking about implementing this idea into my own life and into my own self-discovery journey to become the person I want to be, but also recognizing that that person is already in me. It's already a part of me. I just need to kind of make space to let her come out. I just had a moment of pretty big self-doubt, and I thought about just stopping this podcast right here and re-recording it, but I really want to challenge that and challenge myself to continue this episode, finish it, even though I feel like it's kind of messy. I feel like I haven't really made a clear point. I feel like I don't quite know what I'm saying, but we're just gonna keep going. Thank you for being here, and I just want to be real and accepting of myself at this point and at every point that I reach throughout my healing journey. And that's something I'm really struggling with. So this is me doing it right now. So if you need the sign to do the same, take this as your sign. But what I really wanted to get to in this episode is kind of talking through how I'm implementing this idea into my own life. And very fitting, number one is self-acceptance and accepting who I am right now. Because I feel like I've been so forward thinking the last few years, and I feel like that's very common among people with anxiety and perfectionism. You think about the future, you want to ensure that nothing will go wrong in the future, you want to plan, you want to know what's coming up. And I feel like it's just left me lacking the ability to understand myself right now and accept myself right now and meet myself right now where I'm at in life with compassion. So that is the first step of really acknowledging and understanding that the person I want to become is already in me, is just meeting myself where I'm at right now and not thinking about who I want to become, not thinking about what future Jenny is going to be doing and what she needs, what she looks like, or how she feels, how she talks, which I think is good to have in mind, but first step is to just accept myself how I am right now, because I feel like if you don't have that strong sense of self-love, self-acceptance, self-compassion, trying to build on that, to build new habits, build new mindsets, they're just all going to inevitably crumble at some point because that foundation isn't there. So that is number one, which I'm actively doing in this episode right now. The second thing I'm doing to implement this idea into my life is to consume others' lives way, way less. And by that, I mean stop scrolling on social media, basically. I'm not perfect, of course, and I have been scrolling here and there, but I feel like it's definitely decreased significantly since the beginning of the year and throughout the winter. And I feel like maybe that's just a natural ebb and flow of seasons as well. My social life is starting to be a little bit more booked up, and I'm outside a bit more just because the weather is nice. But also, it's also been a conscious effort. It's been a conscious effort to not open Instagram when I'm bored and not scroll for hours when I need quote unquote inspiration for my own content. And it's just making that conscious effort to check myself and not let myself get sucked into the worlds and the lives of thousands of others of people around the world that I don't know and will never know. And I feel like that has been a huge contributor to not only my struggles with knowing myself and my self-trust, but I feel like for so many people of my generation, we've grown up with social media. We've grown up with the ability to see so many other people's lives at any time of the day that we choose, while we're also at the same time at the age of very formative years, and our brain is still developing. And while it's developing, we're seeing how everyone else around us is living our lives. So of course this is gonna mess us up and like feel like we don't know how to live our own lives, or we don't know who we are, or how we want to live our own lives, because as our brain's been developing, we've just been consuming everyone else's life and not really been given the space to think about our own life. I don't know, again, I don't know if that made any sense, but that's how I feel about it. And I feel like coming to that realization and actually understanding the negative impact that scrolling has had. I mean, I feel like I always knew it wasn't like good for you. Like it wasn't always a great thing to be spending so much time on my phone. I think for me, it was just like, I felt like I was wasting time. I was just losing hours of my life to scrolling. But now I feel like I understand it on a deeper level, and that scrolling has been subconsciously like wiring my brain in a way to shape shift and take on different parts of all these other people's lives that I see, and it hasn't given me the ability to separate myself from that and actually recognize like, okay, no, what do I want in my life? What actually fills my cup, and what is actually authentic to me? So that's my biggest kind of motivator right now, to not scroll so much and try to stay off my phone as much as possible, is to just allow myself the space to just focus on myself and not be seeing and not be comparing so much. So yeah, that's been helping me a lot, just getting off Instagram. I still love YouTube, and I feel like that's why I love longer form content. Like I still listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch my favorite YouTubers, but it's like you see one life. You watch one vlog of one person that you enjoy. Maybe they entertain you, maybe they educate you, and then you're done. Rather than like TikTok and Instagram, you're just seeing like scrolling after scrolling after scrolling. You're seeing hundreds of people's lives in the span of how long that vlog video would be. It's not all bad for sure, and I do create my own short form content. I do enjoy it, but I think just the amount of consumption I know has not been helpful for me. So moving on to the next way that I'm implementing this idea that I am already the person that I want to become is, so first thing was meeting myself where I'm at with compassion. Second thing is consuming less and comparing less. Third thing is, now that I am actually separating myself from all these old rules, maybe old mindsets, and comparing my life to others that I see around me, now I'm trying to build my ability to recognize my needs, but key here is to recognize your needs and not meet them with judgment. Personally, that's something I feel like this is the point where I'm at, is I'm noticing what I need, but I'm judging myself for needing those things. And I still feel like it's so ingrained in my brain at times that I should be living my life a certain way, or maybe I'm still stuck in comparing myself to someone I saw on social media, that when I recognize that I need something different, when I recognize that I don't resonate with something, I'm then meeting that with a lot of self-judgment. And I feel like that, again, is something I'm working on, something I'm aware of now, and that is the first step. That's the first big step. So if you too are feeling like you're recognizing what you need, but it's still not feeling easy to attend to that need or accept that need, and you feel like you're facing it with a lot of judgment, You're not alone. Don't beat yourself up, but you've done the first hardest step, which is just recognizing and acknowledging it. So I guess the next thing from here is now to try to reframe that judgment into curiosity and asking myself, okay, well, why do I need that? Why don't I agree with that? Or why don't I resonate with this certain thing? Or why does this habit or this activity or whatever not agree with me? So that has been something that's been helping. And like I said, I don't do that every single time, and it still takes a conscious effort to kind of approach my needs with curiosity rather than judgment, but that's something I'm reminding myself daily. Fourth thing to living by this idea that who you want to become and who you're meant to be is already in you, I feel like is the next step I want to get to. This step is where you start really acknowledging the parts of you that are not serving you any longer, or maybe they're driven by fear, maybe they're driven by guilt, maybe they're driven by shame, or maybe past trauma or something like that. And it's learning to let those parts fade to the background to give space to the new parts of yourself that are led by authenticity, by joy, by compassion, by self-acceptance, by confidence, and let those parts come to the forefront. Now that the other parts have moved back, there's now space for those parts of you to come forth. And I feel like this is something I've recently it's an idea that I've recently grasped. I just didn't understand how to build those things in myself if I didn't ever know how to build them in my entire life. But it's just like, well, no, right now there's just a lot of parts of me are driven by fear, driven by anxiety, driven by shame and guilt. And those are at the forefront right now. But if I can just do the first three things, like meeting myself with compassion, curiosity and not judgment, and stopping the comparison, slowly but surely those parts will start to fade into the background because they won't be serving you as much. And the other parts of you can come forward and you can flourish and just be your best self. I don't have much to say else on that because I'm definitely in the process of working through that myself, and I feel like I haven't quite experienced that. I feel like there is still a lot of fear, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, but it is a work in progress. We are all a work in progress, and there's no shame in that at all. And so fifth thing is something that I've also talked about on this podcast, but it is to change the way I talk about myself. And this I feel like is probably the hardest one for me. Negative self-talk has always been something I've struggled with, honestly, for as long as I can remember. And 20 years of building up a habit, 20 plus years, 22, 23 years of building something is maybe going to take equally as long to reframe and change. And so I know I'm very much playing the long game, I guess, with reframing self-talk. Anyone who can relate, it's not something that can change overnight. It just physically cannot happen. But all we can do is meet ourselves with compassion, curiosity, acceptance, and love. And when we catch ourselves talking negatively, thinking negatively about ourselves, whenever we can, just try to reframe it. Don't beat yourself up that you're thinking negatively. Don't meet yourself with a lot more judgment and shame and guilt because you're thinking negatively. Just notice it and try to reframe it. So that's something I am working on, and I feel like it's helping me with this idea of knowing that who I want to become is already in me. It's already a part of me. I just need to let her come out and let her shine through. And I know that speaking less negatively to myself will help that whole process happen and kind of allow me to make progress in this self-growth journey. And I think the key here as well for me is just to not put any time constraints, not put any pressure for it to happen now, in the next month, in the next year, in the next 2 years. Like, I'm just trying to release and let go of any of that sort of control that my brain and my perfectionism does automatically try to put on the whole thing. Whenever I notice I should be better at this by now, or I wish I was further along than I am now, or I've been doing this for X amount of years, why is it still hard for me? Those types of thoughts are just not helpful at all. And they're ones that I'm really trying to recognize and reframe and just meet myself where I'm at. like I said, first thing, baseline, meet yourself where you're at and don't judge yourself for being where you're at. And just allow yourself the space to grow and develop and let your true, beautiful, authentic self shine through, because it is in you, it's there, and it just might need a little bit of help to come to the forefront. So I feel like that is what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to just share kind of where I'm at in my journey, and hopefully it is helpful. Hopefully it makes you feel a little bit less alone if you too are experiencing similar things. And yeah, talking through it honestly just helps me not judge myself so much. Like I said, I almost stopped recording this because it feels messy. I feel like I didn't quite make sense a lot of the time, but I'm just meeting myself where I'm at. This is where I'm at, and I so appreciate you being here. If you've listened all the way through, feel free to send me a DM or a comment or something saying that you've made it to the end, and maybe tell me something that is helping you on your journey right now, wherever you're at in your journey. What's something that's been helping you feel like you're getting closer to yourself and you're getting closer to letting that part of you shine through that is a little bit dampened right now. So with that, I will love you and leave you. I'm actually off to a fun event this evening, which will be fun. It's a yoga class event with some hormonal cycle syncing education, which is always really great. I've been trying to learn more about it myself, so I'm really excited. Anyway, I do need to get off and start heading over to there, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your support. Feel free to leave a review and a star rating if you feel called, or share this episode with someone who you think may love listening to it. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at jenny.mini. You can watch the podcast as well on my YouTube, which is also Jenny Mini, or follow the podcast on Instagram at perfectlyimperfect.pod. And with that, I will catch you in the next episode.